Good evening and welcome to this special Island Stat Sports Talk. I'm your host, Earl Based, and joining me is the Bermuda National basketball coach, Sullivan Phillips. Sullivan, first of all, welcome. Thank you very much for taking this time out. I do want to talk to you about the recent tour to the Dominican Republic with the development tour team. Right off the bat, give me some of the positives out of this particular tour.
Yeah, as always, Earl, thanks for having me and always keeping an eye on basketball. We truly appreciate you.
Uh-huh.
Um, the tour was very good. The biggest thing I always look for is new bright spots that we can add to our umbrella of brotherhood. And so for the tour, we got a couple guys in that we had intel on, but we didn't see for ourselves. But to see them on court and see them help us grow and become a lot better, that's always the biggest positive for me. To get younger, to get better, and to bring more gentlemen into the brotherhood.
Yeah. Now, obviously, you go down with some expectations. Did what you were hoping to accomplish? Did you get that accomplished? A more unity team and better all round play as you went on.
Yes, absolutely. Every trip, my goal is always buy-in. I think buy-in is everything. When everybody's on the same page and everybody commits to one thing, usually something good happens. Whether it's good or bad, you commit to it.
Mhm.
And I thought our guys did a very good job. Because my thing is I prefer us play great defense. That's been
Right.
our hallmark as a team is always. And this trip, we got back to some of those principles and it showed in the results.
Mm-hmm. One thing, yeah, I've noticed. I mean, even when you were playing, you were highly regarded as a defensive, a very defensive player. On the defense end, but you was aggressive when you had the ball in your hand. But just trying to get everybody to understand the rule, five players to understand, or even the guys on the bench to understand the rule when you want them to do what you want them to do. Um, and you don't have much time to work with it. How do you get that message across in that short space of time?
Honestly, you try to be as creative as possible, but you try to be as honest as possible.
Mm,
It helps that I have a extensive background, so sometimes when I say things to people, they tend to not question me as much because they understand where my background comes from. So that's been the blessing in the whole thing is I can say to guys, no, get there. And they look at me like I'm confused, but I'm like, just trust me. And once it works, the buy-in becomes bigger and we grow. So it's always tough, and that's something we're working on now as a body of basketball is creating more avenues to make us be great, and it
hmm
starts from planning. Like we do things, too late. We don't plan ahead. We're not as organized as we can be. So that's one of the huge things that we're working on is becoming more organized and then more
hmm
unified.
Sure, sure, sure. For years, even when you were playing, I often spoke about Bermuda have maybe a good 3-on-3 basketball team because we can have a good six. To get a good 12 is kind of it makes it more difficult for a place like Bermuda. But do you see, because you see it in the Caribbean a lot now, and it is growing. We just had a team go down and play the 3-on-3. Is that where we should be looking? I know traditionally we want to play, 5-on-5, but should we be looking to get our feet wet in that 3-on-3?
I think it's another avenue. I don't believe you should close out any avenue that allows people to grow into the sport. Let me
Mm-hmm.
start there. So I'm a big advocate for 3-on-3. But as a national team coach, I always see the bigger picture, which is can we get 12 guys to sing the same song, the same time, the same way every single day and accomplish something? To me, that's a bigger challenge that I would like to see. But I definitely agree. 303 is definitely a growing entity that it's great for the game. And it
Mm-hmm.
gives guys a different perspective, a different opportunity to play. So I'm for it. But
Right.
I'm old school. I love the game being 5-on-5. I love how it's played. I love the ins and outs of it. But 3-on-3 is definitely a rising entity as well.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I agree. I love the 5-on-5 as well. I just look at our sheer numbers and try to maximize as much international play as we can get. However, I want to ask: should would you want guys here in Bermuda to be playing basketball more on a regular basis as opposed to just the short window that they have in the league? Should they be playing more competitive games throughout the year?
Yeah, we would love to. Looking at football or cricket, they're taking trips, and I think trips are needed to keep the interest level there.
Hmm.
You could preach to people all you want. Hey, just work hard. It's gonna work for you. Well, when I'm going to play against somebody else.
Right.
So I think having competition, healthy competition throughout the year is way better than doing it once a year because you're only going to get interest and total buy-in close to the trip.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm a big advocate of having more basketball, but I'm not an advocate of just having it to have it. There should be a quality that you're looking to kind of have as the
Hmm.
pedigree of what you're doing.
Hmm. Now, the team that you had was a lot of youth this time around. We've seen in the past where we've had youth and senior players be playing, but where do you obviously you're looking at the future, and the future is the youth, but having some experienced players in the team, is that more valuable as well?
It's always more valuable. It's always better to go into a situation with people who've been tested, which would be amazing. And we have a couple guys that are in that age group that have been tested and are a
Hmm.
little older that can play. But we go with what we have. Sometimes youth and naivety is like the best thing ever.
Yeah.
Look at Lamille, whatever his name is for Spain, 17 years old. He
Yes.
just doesn't see the moment, anything other than just the moment. So I think the youth is the way we have to go because we want longevity in our game. But I definitely love to have a person or a couple guys on the roster who can say, I've been there before. There's no need to panic. There's no need to be afraid because they've been in the moment. That's
Yeah.
invaluable, in my opinion.
Yeah, some of the players in the squad that you took to Dominican Republic, we've seen them. They've played basketball in college or university, but of late they haven't been playing. Is that a concern for you?
It's always a concern, but one thing I always tell people, when you play at a high level, it's a lot easier for you to transition back into the game than
Hmm.
when you haven't played at a high level and you're trying to transition back into a high level of play. So the guys who went down who haven't played as much, they did great.
Mm.
Great job. And they were, good tutors to our younger players. But to
Right.
be honest with you, Earl, like Cameron Baisley, he's 19 years old and he's
Hmm.
like one of our leaders.
Right.
So when you can get somebody who's that young and put them into that position and they grow into that leadership, for me that's just as valuable.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, because I follow a lot of these guys in school and so forth. That's why I would ask that. Um, keeping them interested now, that this is the key that I think you were alluding to earlier about organization and preparing early. Now you've got their juices flowing again. um how do we keep it?
Yeah, as a national coach, I have to go watch them play during their school years. Like it's relational now. Like
Mm.
you know what we can do, but now I have to continue with a relationship with you so that you don't ignore us, you know?
Hmm.
And that's kind of where we are as coaches. For me, I'm in the States, so it's not that hard for me to go to Florida or somewhere, but I just have to put the time together.
Right.
But just alluding back to what you said previously, what we're trying to do going forward is plan more. Like this is the last summer that I want to go for one trip.
Right.
It's pointless. Like we should be able to do two things and hone in on two of those different aspects of what we're trying to do. If we want to go get better with youth, then we take half the national team of youth players and then some senior players and we go here. And then we
Hmm.
have our annual trip where we go somewhere else. Like it has to be more. You know what
Right.
I mean? Because if
Right.
it's not more, I mean, I'm just being real. This generation is not moving for once a year. Like
Yeah.
that's not gonna move them at all.
Right, right, definitely, definitely. Well, and I see you got your finger on the pulse. It's obviously, more discussions with the administration itself and getting the buy-in from the players to keep going because obviously, like you said, you're dangling that carrot, but the carrot is so far away if you're only going to do it once a year. I could do so many other things and be going 3 and 4 times a year as opposed to going once for basketball. So yeah, it's something that it's got to have buy-in. It's got to have they've got to be inspired by something. And I think with your background and what you've been able to accomplish as a basketball player and as a coach, I think you're on the right track. It's just we just need that administration to kind of come on board. Let's all work together if we want to see basketball grow in the
Y-
country.
Yeah, you know what it is, Earl? It's just like if a kid only sees one option, one opportunity, and they don't think they're in the top tier, they're not going to participate.
Right.
So for me, one of the big attributes I'm pushing now in 2 years, no, we need to go to Island Games. And what we need to do is take a younger team, half
Hmm.
of it be youth, a couple guys that's on the fringe, and then take a couple of senior players, maybe
Right.
4 or 5 core players. And you go with that group and you let them compete against competition that's close to the next level.
Hmm.
And that for me is telling people like, oh, I have more options, which
Right.
means I won't just quit on the game.
Right.
Um, like I said before, the kids now, like they're not going for it. One trip, and I'm not one of the best ones. Well, he's not gonna pick me. I'm not even trying. I'm just gonna
Right.
and you
Right.
lose numbers that way. So we're just trying to figure out ways where we can do more, compete more, and give people more chances, you know?
Right. Okay. All right. Well, I want to change the subject just a little bit because some years ago, you were doing some motivational and inspirational interviews with Bermuda athletes, not just Bermuda athletes, but Bermudians as well. Is that? I mean, we've already discussed kind of picking that back up. What is the message you're trying to get across? What are you hoping to accomplish?
Man, the biggest thing I'm trying to share, Earl, is just you never know where a wave will go until you just drop a pebble in the water.
Hmm.
You just don't know. And the interviews or the conversations are basically for me, it's just allowing people to share their story, share the nuances, share the struggles, share the good things, the bad things. There's somebody who's kicking the ball on the wall. I hope they see John Barry's interview and they're like, yeah, I'm going to be the next guy. I'm going to get my number retired.
Hmm.
There's so many inspirational people. And I try to go with a lot of Bermudians because sometimes the wrong people get the praise and the admiration, whereas there are a lot of people in sports that do a lot of great things
Yes.
and just don't get an interview. Like Willie. Willie's been absolutely phenomenal, phenomenal football player.
Right.
And like 15 people hit me up and was like, yo, who's this guy? I'm like, what? You didn't watch Gold Cup? He's number 11. Like, he's like the most creative player out there. Like,
Right.
and that for me is everything. I just want to open up a space where people can share their story
Yeah.
and be honest about where they are. And then other people behind them, the next generation can see. And not just Bermudians, I'll bring on coaches, ADs, and different things. Just see sports in a different lens.
Right, right. Well, we'll work together to get it back up and running, and because I think it was something really really positive that you were doing, and I was happy to be a part of just that.
Absolutely.
Seeing and hearing some stories. Generally I wouldn't get. You know what I mean? So I'm glad that the people get an opportunity to feel comfortable enough to sit down and have that conversation because sometimes you have to open up and you know get things off your chest, but you have to feel comfortable in the space you're in order to
Absolutely.
do that. And I think you present that comfortable space that allows people to just express themselves in a different way.
Yeah. You just have to, Earl. You have to get, and what I'm finding is as a coach is if you don't create a safe space,
Hmm.
people won't perform feeling safe and comfortable, whether
Right.
it's just having a conversation or whether it's on a sport. So you hit the nail on the head with the hammer. You have to create the space. And my
Hmm.
biggest thing is I tell people, look, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions, but the questions are just baseline. Share your
Yeah,
story. If
yeah,
you think people should know this or that, feel free.
yeah.
Um, Tell them what it is, because I just think too many people lie to kids nowadays and tell them a whole bunch of foolishness, and then kids get out there and learn it, and it's like, wait, I got bamboozled. But if
Right.
we're sharing true stories where people are sharing their true experiences, for me,
Yeah,
it's wholesome.
yeah. Just sitting there listening to you talk like that. It was just over a year ago. Actually, end of this month would be a year. Um, I, me personally, I had a stroke. I've got a heart condition, and the the doctors here was telling me, get all your affairs in order. Um, I my heart condition prevented me from being able to travel abroad, and it still is created prevented me to travel abroad to have whatever exploratory surgery to figure out what how my heart can improve, because only 10 to 15% of my heart is actually functioning.
Wow.
So when you hear, when just being able to talk to people like that, and my friends know, I was down and out, man. I was,
Wow.
um,
Yeah.
but just people around me, medication and inspiration and prayers and so forth. You look at things a little different, and now every day I look at, hey, I got another day. You know, um, I don't know
Yeah.
what tomorrow's gonna bring, but I got
Right.
another day. You know what I mean? Those type of things, and I'm working hard with therapy to get my strength back in from the stroke. But I still have to be very cautious because you don't want to overwork the heart, and it's a lot of balances going on. So just those type of things, that you want to pull out of people, for them to share. It's not like you want people in your business. It's just, this is what I'm going through.
No, it's not. It's not. And this is the thing I always try to tell people. This isn't gossip. Like, this isn't
Yes.
housewives.
Hmm.
This is real talk. Like, somebody should hear this interview and be like, yo, I need to take care of this, or I need to pay attention, because Earl's a good guy. It's not like he's a bad guy. He ain't out here doing a whole bunch of reckless stuff, but it could happen to anybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to be able to take perspective and understand the importance of life, like just hearing you say that, man, I've known you for years, and like my heart goes out to you, like, wow, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
I never would have known unless you share. And
Right.
that's the platform you need to give to people, is like, yo, just share your story. If
Yeah.
people judge you, they never were really with you anyway. So just
Right.
keep it
Right.
moving.
Right. 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 Well, I tell you what, I could be your first when you're ready to go. I don't mind
I,
sharing. I don't mind sharing. I just think, and I've been more open about sharing of late. I was, initially, um, for the last part of the year last year, I was down and out, man, because I didn't know what my next day was. I didn't know what my, what future held for me, kind of thing. And I still don't know, but I feel a little better because now I'm back doing things I love doing with what little capability I've got, but I'm still doing what I love doing. So yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. This is what I'm talking about. Next week, Thursday, I got to get you on. There we go. I got my first, first interview.
All
Look at
right, I'll
that.
make myself available. I'll make myself available for you.
No, I'll shoot you a message after we're done to like lock it in. But look at it, full circle. You did
Yeah,
this for me for years, and now, we're just gonna hear your story and you tell us organically like where you are.
right,
And you've been such a pillar for sports in Bermuda for years. And now
right.
to hear, there's struggles for you. Like, I just love these talks because they always leave me with perspective. And if your
Right.
perspective is pure, you know, it's just a beautiful thing.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, I'll look out for your message after this, and we'll make myself available next week Thursday for you, and we'll go from there.
Absolutely. Thank you so much as always
Thank,
for having me, man. Thank you for, a lot of, I'm sorry to be long with it, but a lot of people don't value the basketball community, but you've always been a steady person who's always respected us. And I just want to make sure I say thank you because, and this is people probably wouldn't even know this. Earl was messaging me while we were in DR, like, can you give me updates? Can you send video? No, it's not funny, man. Like I
Right,
appreciate that because
right,
if we don't have people who care, we become irrelevant very
right.
quickly.
Yeah, yeah.
So, I just want to make sure I give you your flowers and say thank you for always looking out. Thank you for always asking. We'll be better at letting you know where we're going
No problem.
going
No
forward.
problem at all. Yeah. All righty. Enjoy the rest of your evening, buddy.
Thanks so much, Earl. Have a great one.
All righty.
All right, bye.